Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buckets, MJ's son, whatever you want to call him, has been nothing short of phenomenal this playoffs. The Heat beat who many, including myself, consider to be the championship favourites in the Milwaukee Bucks in just 5 games. In the series, Butler averaged 37.6 points per game with 6 rebounds, 5 assists and just under 2 steals a game, on nearly 60% from the field and 45% from 3. Basically nothing short of monstrous stats. And the Heat, with a tough series against the Knicks, are vying for a spot in the Eastern Conference Finals for a second consecutive year, with a potential matchup against their conference finals opponents last year, the Boston Celtics, very much possible. And if the Heat take it one step further and reach the NBA Finals, it's going to be down to Jimmy Butler. So, this strong reliance on a star, who plays tenacious defense, who can step up on offense whenever he likes and has an almost automatic mid-range is pretty familiar, right? Yeah, that's because I'm referring to Michael Jeffrey Jordan, who many people still consider to be the GOAT, but we're not going to dive into that debate today. GOAT or not, he's either number 1 or 2 all time. And look, I'm not even putting Jimmy Butler anywhere near that conversation, because it's not a conversation. Michael Jordan is a 6-time NBA champion, 6-time Finals MVP, 5-time MVP, and made the All-NBA First Team 10 times and the All-Defensive First Team 9 times. Jimmy Butler hasn't achieved any single one of those even once. So when I say he's the new Michael Jordan, I do not mean in terms of consistency, achievements, and accolades, because then that's obviously got to be LeBron. But in terms of playing style, he is absolutely the modern day Michael Jordan. As a perimeter defender, Michael Jordan legitimately has a case for being the best of all time. Again, he made the All-NBA Defensive First Team 9 times, won Defensive Player of the Year in 1988, led the league in steals in 3 separate seasons and is 4th all-time for most steals ever. He also, in 2 different seasons, averaged over 1.5 blocks per game, which is absolutely insane for a guard. Jimmy Butler, on the other hand, has never actually made an All-NBA Defensive First Team, but has finished in the All-NBA Defensive Second Team on 5 occasions and led the league in steals 2 years ago at 2.1 per game. Jimmy Butler has also shown his defensive prowess in the Milwaukee series this playoffs, putting up 1.8 steals per game, which is just ahead of his all-time steals playoffs average of 1.7. And whilst this puts Butler 40th on the all-time list for total steals in the playoffs, MJ ranks 3rd at 376 total steals, with only Scottie Pippen and LeBron James ahead of him. So, these guys are clearly beasts defensively, and again, whilst MJ clearly has the accolades to prove he's the better defender, there are other common characteristics that make Butler the modern day Jordan. Okay, so offensively, again, Michael Jordan is on a different level. The man averaged 30.1 points per game over his career, with some of his season averages including 37.1 and 35 points per game, some of the highest seen in the NBA. He finished a scoring champion 10 times, which is still an NBA record to this day, and bear in mind he didn't even play in the 93-94 season, joined for the last 17 games in the 94-95 season, and retired from 1998 to 2001. He was pretty damn efficient too, averaging 49.7% over the course of his career. But in the playoffs, this guy just elevated his game completely, averaging 33.4 points per game over the course of his career and obviously leading the Bulls to 6 NBA titles. In these championship runs, he put up ridiculous scoring averages like 34.5 and 35.1 points per game. And even though many consider him to be the best scorer and mid-range shooter of all time, it's pretty well known that MJ wasn't exactly the best 3-point shooter, even when, in the 80s and 90s, the 3-point shot wasn't utilized anywhere to the degree it is today. He averaged just 32.7% on his threes over the course of his career, with his career-high season average of 50% coming at just 1.9 attempts per game. So, some of this should sound pretty familiar. Jimmy Butler himself, in the 6 games so far in the playoffs, has averaged 35.5 points per game on 58.5% field goal percentage. This includes his ridiculous 56-point game against the Bucks in Game 4, and his 42-point game performance to eliminate the Bucks in Game 5. But his 56 points put him at 4th for most points scored in a single playoff game, tying him with Wilt Chamberlain, Charles Barkley, and yep, you guessed it, Michael Jordan, who also happens to hold the number 1 spot for that category at 63 points against the Boston Celtics in 1986. So, on offense, these guys are also beasts and are almost unstoppable from the mid-range when they get it going. And yes, like MJ, Butler isn't the most prolific 3-point shooter either, though in this year's playoffs he's been lighting up from 3 at 43%, way above his regular season average of 35% from 3. There just aren't many guards like that anymore. DeMar DeRozan is definitely up there, but obviously his D is nowhere to the level of Jimmy's. But even regarding things that can't be shown in the stat sheet in their defense and offense, they're extremely similar in character. Quite simply, they've both got that dog in them, which means that they're more than willing to get down and dirty. Obviously, there are some pretty famous stories surrounding Michael Jordan's greatness, like how he still managed to drop 38 points in the 1997 finals against the Jazz despite exhibiting flu-like symptoms, which parallels that of Jimmy Butler's amazing 35-point, 12-rebound and 11-assist performance against the Lakers in Game 5 of the NBA Finals after playing 47 minutes. But yes, that's just not something that is quantifiable, but nor is it something that is found in every NBA All-Star, let alone every NBA player. Very few basketball players have that mentality, that drive, that determination and that hunger that separates the greats from the rest of the NBA. And yes, Butler does not have the accolades to show for it, but his mentality is certainly up there with the likes of LeBron James and of course, Michael Jordan. But yes, you just can't put Jimmy Butler on the same pedestal as Michael Jordan. In fact, it would be a sacrilege to do so. And at 33, it is literally impossible for Butler to put himself up there with the likes of MJ and LeBron. But he is still in control of this season, having eliminated the Bucks, the Eastern Conference's #1 seed, in just 5 games. And having qualified through the play-ins as the 8th seed, these guys are obviously still the underdogs. In their own conference, they've got a Philadelphia 76ers team that even without the newly crowned MVP in Joel Embiid are still capable of beating any team in the NBA, as shown in their impressive Game 1 win away from home against the Celtics. And then there's the Celtics themselves, who finished the regular season with the second best record in the league and are arguably the most well-rounded team left in the playoffs, with a duo in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown that are both capable of winning games on their own. And then there's the contenders from the West, including the Denver Nuggets, led by the 2-time MVP in Jokic and a Jamal Murray, who in the playoffs is a different animal. And then there's a Warriors team who literally won the championship last year with the greatest shooter of all time, Steph Curry, who dropped 50 in Game 7 against the Kings. And then there's also the Lakers team led by LeBron James and Anthony Davis, who literally beat the Heat in the finals 3 years ago. Truthfully, it's going to be extremely tough. But if Jimmy Butler can consistently perform at the level he's already shown in the playoffs so far, you just cannot rule the Heat out. So Jimmy Butler, in my opinion, is the closest thing we've had to who many people still consider to be the GOAT of basketball, Michael Jordan. And I need to emphasize, I'm speaking strictly in terms of playstyle and mentality, not accolades. The only player that can be put on the same pedestal in terms of all-round achievements and legacy is LeBron James, end of. But Butler's mental and physical toughness, mid-range game, and tenacious defense is, again in my opinion, extremely reminiscent of MJ. We're seeing this in the playoffs now, and it's fair to say that by the end of his career, a player like Jimmy Butler deserves at least one championship to honor his legacy. So let's see if he can lead this Miami team, who of course reached the finals 3 seasons ago, to an NBA title, which will be the very first title of his career. If you guys enjoyed the video and if you want to see more NBA content like this on a weekly basis, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way. And if you still got time to watch some more of my independently created content, please check out one of the videos here. Thanks. Have a good day.